All right, welcome back to the Death Toll Garage. Today I'm going to put on this CVF Serpentine system that we got. What we're doing today should apply to anything. Really, I don't think there's a single car out there that running a Pontiac V8 that this system wouldn't work on. This is a non-AC system. If you do have AC, there will be additional brackets and obviously a conversion on the other side of the motor. On the passenger side of the motor that we're not going to be getting into. We do have some scenarios in this rig that we're building here. We have a steering box that's moved up front for the 4x4 setup that you wouldn't have if you're building something else. We have steering cylinder and stuff that we have to port in, and that'll come later. We are running Hydro Boost, so the conversion to Hydro Boost on ours, you can ignore the Hydro Boost stuff if you don't have Hydro Boost, or if you're interested in converting to Hydro Boost, your scenario will be the exact same as ours, minus some of our obstacles that we have to go around with that steering box and stuff. But otherwise you could run it. If you're just running Hydro Boost, you wouldn't probably need to use the remote reservoir. You could use your standard pump with reservoir the way it is, and just to your return line. We are running an actual Hydro Boost power steering pump that has 2 return lines, and that's actually what spurred us into having to do our Serpentine setup now on it, because it wasn't going to work with having to adjust that power steering. The tensioning on that using the power steering pump wasn't going to work with our return lines and our steering shaft that's in our way on our rig. So that being said, for initial feelings on this setup is so far really high quality, really good directions that are specific to Pontiac. It's not some universal directions that like a lot of guys give you that basically just try to cover everything in one piece of paper so that they don't have to put any effort into it. So it does seem really good. We bought their 1-wire alternator. We will have to convert their. We'll have to put the pulley and everything on it. They just set them up with the one-way with the V-belt on all of them, because that's just basically a GM alternator. There's nothing really too unique about a Pontiac one. So that being said, all we need to do now is go tear apart the front of the car, and then we'll see what it's going to take to get all this stuff on there. So stay tuned. Okay, here we go. This should go pretty fast. Man, that was disturbing. Now look at that. Someone did a real nice job of putting a speedy sleeve on. Okay, so picking up where we left off just a second ago for you guys, and a couple weeks ago for me, we got the parts to convert to the newer style water pump. I got them all from like Jags or Summit or something like that. I think it was Summit, but there's multiple brands of these. So you get the cover and the plate with it and the tubes with it. I had originally grabbed, and you probably saw it in the video, maybe in time lapse or something. I'm not sure. I honestly can't remember what kind of video we have from before, but I cleaned up one of these that I got from my neighbor, and I didn't realize that, I don't know why, but these plates are really expensive. So by the time you buy the plate and the tubes, you get a free cover with it if you just buy the whole setup. So anyway, so I did that. This is much nicer than that one, than the factory pieces. It's much nicer than the factory piece. It's cast really nice. The other one had like a real dry casting and junk hanging off of it that I all ground off and cleaned up, but whatever. So anyway, and then I got the gasket set for it, and then we got an aluminum water pump. I don't think there's anything too special about it other than it's made from aluminum, just basically a factory piece made of aluminum. And then I got a new balancer, because the balancer on that thing, you know, I was going to run it, but if I'm going to take it off, I'm not putting it back on there, because it's had a long life, and then when I got that car, the sway bar from that car was actually hitting the balancer on the back side, so it was kind of pushing on it. We were asking way too much of that thing, and I'm not going to take it off, put it on. Plus, someone had taken it off before and put a speedy sleeve on it, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with those things, but they didn't do a very good job, and I didn't even want to fight it, so I bought a new one. That's just a JAGS SFI approved one. Probably a good one. We probably could use it when we build that motor, but we'll see. You know, I didn't want to put a fluid dampener on that thing. I don't know why. I didn't want to spend the money on one, just to stick on that old junky thing. So we got a water pump, or a fuel pump, and I bought the fuel pump, the newer style fuel pump with the return line, and I did that because I want to run a return line on that thing anyway. Well, we have to when we run fuel injection on it. When we build that motor, we're going to put fuel injection on it. So we'll need a return line then, and since we're going to run new lines now, I may as well run a return line as well, since we're going to need it later, and that way it'll just be a functioning one. Anyway, so I just went ahead and did that, and that way it's there for us when we go to build this motor. So anyway, I'm going to go clean up the front of that motor, and then we'll flush the oil pan out, since it's wide open on the top right now. We'll get all that junk out. We don't want to cause any scratches and stuff that aren't already there, so that would be just kind of a stupid thing to do. Even though we are going to rebuild the motor, we don't want to have to bore anything or machine anything more than we have to machine it already. So I'm going to get going on it, and we'll be back and we'll start throwing that cover on. Alright, before we get too far into cleaning up the front of the motor, I was going to show you that I actually put an extra gusset in this. Since we did these, I couldn't sleep at night because I didn't like the way it looked. Not really, but I was saying I didn't like the way it looked, so I made gussets to fit on this outside so that it's held in three directions. I didn't like that it was only held in two. It really probably would have been fine, but I added those anyway to both sides just before then. And then also I did a clearance, and I don't remember if I filmed this or not. Maybe I did, but I did a clearance here, and that's for the nut on the steering cylinder when you compress it all the way, would hit the cross member, so I just made a clearance for it. That steering cylinder's down here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right there. And so anyway, so when the axle goes up all the way, that just gave me clearance for the nut on it. So we're really looking like we should have probably just cut that cross member all the way out and built one that fit, but that's okay. We got it. It's very, very form fitted for what we need it to do. So that's okay. So I'm gonna get cleaning up on this motor. I'm not gonna film it because you don't need to see me wire brush in front of it. Okay, take 500. Hopefully no one starts shooting outside this time. That's what just happened last take. So, summary on this whole install, the CVF Serpentine system. Really, really good. I liked it. I'm really happy with it. I do have a couple complaints, things that they could address. One, the turnbuckle they have going down to a 5/16 bolt, and it's a 3/8 ID turnbuckle end, spherical end, rod end, or whatever you want to call it. I don't like that. They should have given you a bushing or something for that, so that it looks cheesy. I notice it. Most people probably wouldn't. I don't like it. I'm going to come up with a better way. I don't like that. What else? That's really about it. I had to install the pulley on the power steering pump really, really far. It seemed like almost excessively far, but. I don't know. It's going to be fine. It'll still fit under their little cover and stuff, so that's fine. I don't know how you're supposed to get those pulleys off if you need to remove them, since there's no provisions for getting it off. That may be we may have to get pretty creative on that. I know I can use some sort of an installer and put it through the holes of the pulley. I just don't know how good we can do that without screwing it up. We're going to screw up the anodizing trying to remove it. So, but anyway, I didn't really like that. So. Unless they have an installer, then that's fine. But I didn't see one on their site, so I'm going to look into that. But really, all in all, really, really good kit, really good directions. Everything worked like it was supposed to. I did have to grind my valve cover, but that's because I'm running these big aftermarket aluminum valve covers from the 70s. So that's probably a pretty normal thing to have to do if you're running those. I think stock valve covers or most aftermarket valve covers probably would have been fine. There's gunshots again. So anyway, so that's going to work out really good. The pulley is right next to the box on the power steering pump. So right here, if you can see it, yeah, there he goes. That's the pressure line. Bob's not liking those gunshots. I don't know what the heck someone's doing or what they're thinking. That's why people want to ban guns, I guess. It's people like that. Anyway, so. That's the pressure line. I already came up with a solution to that. I was really, really worried we were going to have to come and get creative on moving that pump or something. But so I went and got the stock line off one of those boxes, and it actually fits really well. But originally I was going to get AN adapters that go in there, but there's no way that would work. That would put our AN fitting right there, which would be hitting the pulley. So what I did is I cut the factory line off. I silver soldered on 6AN adapter, or -6 adapter, and then now I can run our line this way. So now that's going to work. So now that'll be in the box. It clears perfectly. It shouldn't ever hit in any situation. And then that's going to go up the fender well, and we'll make nice ties going up the fender well, going to the Hydro Boost. So like that. So that's our adapter when we go to start making our lines. So I got that. A couple things. One, the guy was supposed to ship the master cylinder and all the fittings this week, by the end of the week. He obviously missed that because it's Sunday now. He missed that, or he shipped them and didn't tell me. So I'm a little frustrated with that. That's been a couple weeks now, and it's kind of frustrating because when I have to call to ask, that's frustrating to me with no updates. I understand that there's a lot of craziness going on right now, but it's still communication. You can do that from your house if that's where you're working. I think it's just a one-man show at that Hydro Boost thing. But anyway, so who knows when that stuff's going to get here? So who knows when we can make our lines? So as for the reservoir for that pump, we're going to put it right here in the core support, since we can't. Our radiator is going to be offset to the left. We already have it. We'll be working on that later this week. The power steering box is occupying some of the area where the radiator normally would be. So basically we have a dead area now on the side. So we're going to utilize that and put our reservoir right there, and then it'll just have a line going down to the pump. So that's what we're going to do for that. So yeah, so stay tuned. Later this week we'll be doing the radiator. We might start tackling the front upper mounts for the coilovers, and because once we get that done, we are done with suspension other than waiting on those parts, and which I'm getting kind of excited for, and I can't wait to get the brake lines and stuff made so that we can pull it all apart, paint it, and put it back together for real. That's going to be really, really nice to get moving on. So we got to take transmission back out. All that stuff has to come back out. That's all in temporary, and then we can start doing the sheet metal and stuff in the floor on the inside. So we're getting really close to just getting this thing running, which is cool. So you know, we still got a couple weeks left on waiting on the coilovers at least. So who knows when those will actually be able to make it here. But anyway, so yeah, so stay tuned. Radiator probably next, upper coilover mounts after that, and hopefully I'll get all that done this week, and we'll have some videos by next weekend. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.